So the big question is this: how do aspiring real estate investors like us escape from the rat race and build real wealth and freedom without access to millions of dollars in investment capital and start to live the life that we know we deserve? This is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Zack Childress, and welcome to Real Estate Investing Talk Show. Let's dig in, right? Let's just talk serious real quick about what it is that you're not doing when it comes to direct mail. And the moral of it is this. Why do we do direct mail? We do direct mail to get more leads, right? We want leads so we can convert them into deals, and we want deals so that we can convert them into money, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose. It's called marketing. It's the name of the game, right? But a lot of people don't understand that marketing, there's two forms of marketing. There's paid marketing and there's free marketing, right? And look, we can target free marketing all day long, and you should target free marketing if you're first starting out, because free marketing is where you can start testing your scripts, your calling, your negotiations, your ability to communicate on the phone. But once you have gotten under your belt a few deals and you understand how to talk to sellers and you start really working that process, you got to move to the next level, which is paid sources of leads. And one of those is direct mail. I'm a fan of direct mail. I've always been a fan of direct mail. I think direct mail opens up a whole nother world of lead sources, but direct mail can be your enemy if you're not doing direct mail right. And the reason I say that is because you're going to spend money on direct mail. You're paying for a lead source. And if you mail out 1,000 lead sources or leads, if you mail 1,000 prospects, you're not going to get 1,000 leads back. It's just not going to happen. In direct mail, especially if you're doing a mass direct mail campaign, you're probably seeing a 1%, maybe 2% inbound lead source off of that campaign. But there's ways to create a better response and a higher inbound call from a direct mail piece. And we're going to talk about that today here live on your Real Estate Investing Talk Show with Zack Childress. That's me. So there's four main things we're going to talk about today when it comes to direct mail. And if you'll just change these little things, I promise you'll see a huge increase in your conversion from mails to inbound calls. Plus, you'll see an increase in your communication with these sellers and your response rate. So the number one is doing what we call mass mailing everyone. So why is that a bad thing to do? Well, number one is it's very expensive. So if you don't have a budget, or if you don't have a budget, then do it. If you have a budget, it's the wrong thing to do, because you can't mail everybody and think you're going to get enough time to keep mailing them when you have that big of a list. For instance, pulling all the out-of-state owners or all the foreclosures or all the equity properties with 50% of equity in them. But when we're doing mass mailing, the problem with mass mailing is we're mailing every single lead in an entire market. And the problem with that is not every one of those leads are valuable to you. So if you're working on a budget and you want to get a higher response rate, you follow the market segmentation approach. You follow the zip code clustering approach. You narrow down your cluster zones and you mail directly to those cluster zones. The beauty of that is you can now do mailing on a budget, because instead of mailing 8,000 people, you might only be mailing 1,000 or 2,000 people. And just to give you a cost association, if you're going to mail write this down. It's not in my notes to talk to you about today, but I'm going to write it on here so that I know I talked to you about it. When you're mailing a list, you always mail a postcard first. You always mail a postcard first. So if you're mailing 1,000 people, it's going to cost you about $600, somewhere around there, $500-$600 to get that postcard out to everybody. But the reason that you mail that postcard is because it filters the list. So if I mail 1,000 people, let's just say, and I get 300 of them back, that means that 700 of them actually got somewhere. 300 of them were non-deliverable. So I'm not going to mail those 300 in that campaign again. Now, I am going to mail those 300, but I'm going to move them into a different category, and I'm going to go after skip tracing. I'm going to go skip trace those 300 people. I might end up finding 100 of them. Well, now that 100 is a whole new list for me, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the number one rule, especially if you're working on a budget, is don't mass mail. Don't mass mail. Don't do it. You're spending all your money on mass mailing, and you're mailing them one time. And that takes me to topic number 2. Topic number 2 is if you were only going to mail one time, don't mail at all. That's part of what you're doing wrong, is you're mailing them one time. You're not going to get the response that you're looking for. You're not going to get the leads that you're looking for. You're not going to get that direct mail to work at the level it should work if you're only mailing one time. Now, I've already said you should always mail a postcard first, right? And that's because it helps filter the list. So if we mailed 1,000 people inside our cluster zones like we're supposed to, from there, we'll mail 1,000 people, 300 of them come back because I mail a postcard, right? I take that 700 and now I mail them a second time with a letter campaign. It's usually some form of handwritten type letter. And then the third, I always mail a minimum of 3 times because the third mailing piece is more of a corporate style letter. So I mail a postcard, I mail some form of handwritten letter, and then I mail some form of corporate letter. And that way I'm touching 3 different types of sellers. I'm touching the hyper seller with the postcard. I'm touching the seller who is not really looking for the corporate type person, but just some local home buyer with a handwritten letter. And then I'm mailing a corporate letter so that if someone is looking for a more professional type company, they're going to be more engaged in that letter. But the point is I'm touching them 3 times with 3 different aspects of a campaign or a letter campaign. And so it allows me to get a higher response rate over time. So when you look at that, you're going to have some cost in it. The postcard's going to be roughly 60 cents. Each letter is going to be anywhere from $1 to $1.50, depending on where you get it at or how you ship it out. So over that lifespan of that campaign, you're probably talking about $3, somewhere roughly in there, so somewhere roughly in $3. So if I've got 1,000 people I'm mailing a postcard to, let's do the math. That's $600 for that 1,000 people to go out. Then it comes back and I've got 700 left to mail my letters to. Each letter is going to cost you about $1.25 depending on where you get it at. So you're talking $2.50, right? So if I take $2.50 times the 700, that tells me that, did that wrong. That tells me I've got an additional $17.50 on top of that, right? So my total budget for that campaign of 1,000 prospects to mail them 3 times is going to be $23.50. $23.50, okay? This is why I say to you guys all the time, like if you're going to do direct mail, do it right, where you can do follow-ups, because the more times I touch, the more opportunities of deals I'm going to get. That's why topic 2 today is all about don't mail them if you're only going to mail once. So we've covered 2 topics so far. Number 1 was don't do mass mailing if you're on a budget. Okay. Number 2 is don't mail them one time. Mail them multiple times, but you can mail multiple times better because, for instance, let's just look at this. If I was going to do mass mailing, okay, if I was going to do mass mailing to every single foreclosure in my market, let's say that that's 4,000 people. Well, that's going to cost me 4,000 times 60 cents. You're talking roughly $20-something $100, $2,000 and something dollars. That's for one piece of mailing everybody. But now if I take that list and I narrow it down to cluster zones and zip codes and use my cluster areas, I can have a more target approach that I can touch multiple times for the same price by doing it that way, following that methodology, okay? So let's talk about topic 3. Topic 3 is something that I think is you learn it over time. Just starting out in direct mail, you'd never know to do this. And this is why I'm going to share it with you. And it's called storyboarding your message, okay? Why do we storyboard the message? Well, if you understand what storyboarding is, it's like when you lay out like, I don't know, 10 boxes and you say, I want to tell a story from A to Z. And how am I going to tell this story? Well, I'm going to break it up into 10 sections, right? And so it's called storyboarding. You build the story into like 10 different phases. But in our case, we would build it into 3. So for example, when I'm mailing the postcard, I would end that postcard with a message that says something like, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to be sending you a letter with more information about how I can help you. So now they're reading it and they're going, okay, this guy's going to send me a letter. So then in 14 or 21 days later, when I send the letter starts with, Dear owner, I hope you received my postcard. I'm writing you today in regards to your property at 123, Magnolia Street. And I go through the whole direct mail messaging. And then at the bottom, I always put PS. Hey, I'm looking forward to communicating with you about your property to get it closed quickly. PSS. If I don't hear back from you, keep your eye on the mail. I'll be sending you another letter with more information on my company. So I'm storyboarding that message. You follow me? So now I'm linking them together. So now they're starting to say, man, yes, they're reading the letter. Oh yeah, I remember Manny sent me this postcard. Oh, and now he sent me a letter. And so when they're done with that letter, they're reading, oh, he's going to send me another letter. So now they're building a relationship with you just through mail because you're linking and storyboarding that message together across 3 different pieces. And that's why storyboarding is one of the best ways to establish a relationship with a prospect before you even get on the phone with them. And using creative mailing. I'll tell you, that's a great way to establish a relationship because you'll get a lot of phone calls where people will just be like, man, that was a great message, or love that, piece of mail you sent me. It really got my attention. And so it breaks the ice a little bit. So when you get into creative mailing, though, you can assume your cost is going to go up. But for example, if I'm mailing foreclosures, I'm not going to be doing a lot of creative mailing. If I'm mailing high equity properties with, 100,000 of equity in them or more, I'm probably going to spend a little bit more for my direct mail piece because that is that is a more valuable lead. I'll just say it that way. So just remember, number 3 is storyboarding and linking the messages together, building a storyboard so that it's almost like a pen pal, right? Like you're writing, you're communicating, you're talking, you're building a message through that direct mail piece that links the message on what you're trying to create. So for instance, if I'm mailing to someone in foreclosure, part of my messaging might be why they need to sell quickly or what some of the aspects of mailing or being in foreclosure could be. Right? So that's something you want to think about. So like in my letter, I might say, look, here's some things you need to be aware of in foreclosure. And then from there, I might say, but I'll send you more information later. So then the third letter might be more of a message about where I'm pointing out more things that they need to be aware of. So you just got to keep that in mind. So it helps you build that relationship, build that communication so that you're really engaging the prospect. All right. That's number 3 with direct mail. Number 4 with direct mail is you're not layering your pain. You're not layering it. What is a layered pain that some people might ask me? Well, listen, I'm going from a big list down to a small list, but that small list is very filtered. It's very direct. It's in a very specific area. And I have multiple layers of pain when it comes to that type of list. And so, and one of the things that we do to do that is we do layering. For example, we'll call a list broker and we'll say, look, list broker, I'm looking for prospects in this city and these zip codes that are facing foreclosure and they live out of state, right? So meaning it's an out-of-state owner that owns this property and they're behind on payments. Well, that's 2 layers of motivation. So it's not like they're just living out of state. Well, they may not be that motivated, but if they're facing foreclosure and they live out of state, that could be even more motivation for them to sell. Or I could mail someone that is who lives out of state, who inherited a property and is behind on payments. Like that's somebody who basically just inherited a property that they don't even live in the area. Now they're behind on payments because they can't keep up with it. They probably didn't want the property anyways, and they live out of state. That's 3 layers of pain that would encourage them to want to sell quickly. So you got to think about that and be creative with it. I have a good friend out in the Arizona market. He does a mailing campaign that is just absolutely genius. It's genius. And instead of mailing people in foreclosure saying, hey, you're in foreclosure, I can help, which is like what everybody else is mailing them, he has an entire campaign that he mails them that says, do you have stuff that you want to sell? We're buying stuff in your area, TVs, clothes, chairs, computers, pictures. He basically mails people who are in distress, who need money, and says, look, we're a stuff buyer. We buy stuff, right? And what that does is people in that situation are like, yeah, man, I need to sell some furniture. I need to sell some stuff. I need to sell this car out back. I need to sell some stuff. So they call him up and say, yeah, we have stuff to sell. Can you come over to the house and look at it? He's like, yeah. What that does is it gets him to the property. It gets him in, and they buy stuff from these people. I mean, as long as they're getting it at the right price, because then they go sell it on, Marketplace on Facebook and some other sites out there. But it gets them to the property. And when they're looking at the stuff, they say, well, look, we buy stuff, but we also buy houses. Are you trying to sell your property? And what it does is it gets them in the door doing something different than everyone else. And he's having massive success with this. And so there again, you got to think outside the box sometimes in direct mail. Direct mail isn't always the same old every single time. Like, be different, create a different message, create a different USP. What is a USP? Unique sales proposition. Be different in your campaign. Does that mean sometimes you got to test some things? Yeah, it does. And that's what direct mail and marketing is all about. Marketing is about testing. Marketing is about trying new things over and over again until you find something that works good for you. Because here's why. Look, stuff I was mailing last year does not work right now. It's a different market. And look, the stuff I'm mailing now won't work in 2 years. We'll be in a different market. So you got to think about that. Keep that in your mind. But just to reiterate, the 4 things, to go back to our point of topic, why you're doing direct mail wrong. Number 1, why you're doing it wrong, because you're mass mailing. Number 2, you're mailing one piece. Number 3, you're not linking and storyboarding your messages. And number 4, you're not layering the pain. You're just going to list source, you're pulling a list, and you're mailing it. That's not the way that you do direct mail. Yeah, that's an easy way to do it, but you'll get some results from it, but you won't get the level of results that you should be getting from direct mail if you don't treat direct mail like its own little marketing business inside of your business. So let me just drop another little golden nugget on you guys, okay? And this is, be thankful for returned mail. That is an entire list in itself, okay? You need to build an entire returned mail database. Any mail coming back to you needs to be put into a spreadsheet, needs to be sent to a skip tracer, or you need to skip trace it yourself. And let's say over 90 days, you end up with 300 return mail pieces. If you send that 300 return mail pieces to a skip tracer, you'll probably end up with about 100 to 150 that they find. That's a whole new list. That's a brand new list. Like, that's a list that's untouched, because most people who do direct mail don't do it like I'm teaching you. That's why they don't have a lot of success with it. They send one piece and it's over. They don't go after the returned mail. You take that returned mail and then you go skip trace it and you build that list up also. You've got a whole new list that people aren't targeting. So anyways, guys, that's my message for you today. My message for you today is why you're doing direct mail wrong. Those are 4 key points that if you'll change those 4 points to your direct mail, your game, you will step it up big time. You'll get a massive response rate. You'll see a better communication with the prospect as you move forward. But remember this, direct mail is only one source of leads, okay? You need multiple sources of leads to be successful in any business, especially real estate. So keep that in your mind while you guys are out there becoming bosses, all right? Remember, be blessed, be a boss, and this is your time. Make it happen. This is Zack Childress. I'll see you guys next week. Bye now. You've been listening to the Real Estate Investing Talk Show. I'm Zack Childress, and I'm on a mission to create 10,000 real estate bosses over the next year. Will you be one of them? Head over to my website, reisuccessacademy.com/web class, and register for my free web class where you'll discover how to escape from the 9-to-5 grind and become your own boss in real estate. See you there.